Good morning. I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome to the April 1st Special Council meeting of City Council. We acknowledge we're on the traditional lands of the Treaty 4 territory, a treaty signed with 35 First Nations across southern Saskatchewan and parts of Alberta and Manitoba, and the original lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. The City of Regina owes its strength and vibrancy to these lands and the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors have marked this territory, as well as settlers from around the world who continue to be welcomed here and call Regina home. And I'm just going to ask whoever's appearing by teleconferencing, can you please ensure that your microphone is turned off and your video camera is unenabled
on the homeland of the Métis Nation. The City of Regina owes its strength and vibrancy.
Thank you. Some members of council and city administration are attending the meeting today through video conferencing. I'd like to remind you again, video camera, microphone off. Council, if you wish to speak, use the raised hand function to enter the speaking queue, and when speaking, unmute your microphone and enable your video camera. All votes be conducted with a recorded vote. We have delegations appearing this morning, both in person, I actually believe just in person, to address council on the items on the agenda. Can I have someone move a motion to approve the agenda? Thank you, Councillor Hawkins, seconded by Councillor Findura. I'll call the question. Any opposed? Carried. I'd like to call, 1 second here. All right. I'd like to call upon Delegation Chelsea Galloway from Economic Development Regina. Please introduce yourself for the record, the organization you're representing, and you'll have 5 minutes to address City Council, after which you'll have the opportunity to respond to any questions that members of Council may have for you. Good morning, Ms. Galloway.
Good morning. I'm Chelsea Galloway, Chief Tourism and Visitor Growth Officer for Economic Development Regina and Tourism Regina. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. And thank you for considering this request to support the collaborative bid to host the 2023 World Juniors in Regina and Saskatoon. We are requesting an amount of $350,000. So when Regina sees an opportunity, we don't spend time boasting about it. We get to work. And these past few days have been an incredible example of the ingenuity in Regina and Saskatoon to be able to move quickly and in collaboration to bring great events to our communities. We want to be able to reopen the door to Saskatchewan and once again welcome the world. At a time where our tourism and hospitality sector has struggled for more than 2 years and is in desperate need of a boost, the World Juniors has the ability to fill our hotels, attractions, taxis, airports, restaurants, and venues for close to 3 weeks in December, which is a time that even without the effects of COVID would be a really slow time for our community. This event has the potential to welcome 20,000 visitors, utilize 15,000 hotel rooms, generate an economic impact of $50 million for our province, and welcome over 300,000 attendees to 31 games across our 2 cities. It's also an amazing opportunity for us to take advantage of the international broadcast that TSN provides that can see viewership of up to 120 million people. So just imagine the beautiful videos and the photos being shown to the world that help elevate our profile as an event city, but also one that people can come visit with lots of things to see and do. Every event that we can secure for Regina further cements our status as an exceptional host city, opening more doors to host events that are either similar in caliber or even bigger in the future. If this bid is successful, Regina will host 3 major events over the course of 6 weeks: Grey Cup, Canadian Western Agribition, and the World Juniors. As we close out fall and move into winter, this will help elevate our tourism industry into a much needed phase of recovery. Council's support and commitment of funding is critical for us to be able to move forward with a bid. I am confident in our community's ability to come together to host an event of this nature, and I'm excited to be able to deliver this event for our citizens and visitors. Thank you for your consideration of this request and for considering it in such an urgent manner. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Galloway. I will open it up to the floor of council to see if anyone has any questions of the delegate. All right, seeing none, I'll thank you very much for your presentation this morning and ask that you please return to the gallery. Council, next, we have a communication, item CM 22-11, from Tony Plater on behalf of the Regina District Chamber of Commerce. Can I have someone move a motion to receive and file the communication? Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Seconded by Councillor Fundura. I'll call the question. Any opposed? Carried. We will now consider item CM 22-11, 2023 IIHF World Junior Championships. Can I have a member of administration introduce the report? Mr. Nicol.
Thank you, Mayor, and to members of council. This exciting opportunity came to the attention of my office over the past weekend, and our administration, through Mr. Jeff May, worked with Tim Reed of the Regina Exhibition Association Limited to finalize the report that is here before you this morning. My office and the city clerk worked with our counterparts in Saskatoon as well this week to coordinate a coordinated reporting decision structure. The City of Saskatoon will be considering this joint bid at a special council meeting that they are holding concurrently at this point in time. So the two cities worked very closely to ensure that the respective councils were dealing with this at the same time. It's my understanding that they are very supportive of this as well, but that is up to you to decide and determine. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Reed and Mr. May to walk you through the specifics of the request before you this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Nicol. Mr. Reed, Mr. May.
Thank you, and through the chair, I want to open by talking about a local community that has global opportunities. And I think this is for the reason that we're here today. It's very easy for us often to talk about we want to change the world and we want to have an impact. But in these times that are truly crisis-driven, we as a local community have an ability to truly have a global impact. The role that Saskatchewan will play supporting the crisis that we're seeing overseas is perhaps changing on a daily basis. With recent announcements on behalf of the federal government that we have to increase our output of barrels per day up to 200 to 300,000 barrels, with the impact that we're going to see on our agricultural market, our province is well positioned to provide support to our nation, but also other nations across the globe. That doesn't just stop at agriculture and energy. The reality of the crisis that we're seeing today is a global one. And the International Hockey Federation has made the decision that they will not host this year's World Junior Championships in Russia. Like we talk about with energy and we talk about with agriculture, the opportunity that it's had is when the International Hockey Federation is looking for somebody to salvage a challenging situation, they reach to Canada. And I think to credit of this council and those in Saskatoon, when Hockey Canada is looking for somebody that can do something that truly has never been done before, they reach out to Regina and Saskatoon. As many of you know, we've had this opportunity that's quite unique. I've chatted more nights with Jeff May at 11 o'clock in our pajamas than I ever hoped to chat with Jeff May. To his credit and to that of your administration, they've worked tirelessly since this opportunity began. When the Women's World Championship was canceled in Halifax, we aggressively pursued an opportunity to convince them that although Nova Scotians weren't prepared to have an event, we were quite comfortable hosting them here, whether that was in a bubbled scenario, because we'd proven it with the WHL bubble, or in a live event scenario. Unfortunately, Hockey Canada made the decision that they simply didn't have the capacity to do a proper and fulsome bid, and they brought that event to Calgary, as some of you know. Concurrent to that process, there was an intent of hosting the World Juniors this year in Edmonton, Alberta, in conjunction with Red Deer. The bid on behalf of the City of Edmonton was $1 million of investment into that event, and Red Deer was $300,000. For the second year, 2 games into that tournament, they had to cancel that tournament. Many of you probably remember their very own Regina Pat, Connor Bedard, scored 3 goals in the last game before that shut down. Hockey Canada's made the decision that for development purposes, they will play that tournament this year in August in the city of Edmonton alone. The reality of that is at some point when this comes back to Western Canada, Hockey Canada owes one to Red Deer. And we should recognize that this opportunity only comes our way every 14 to 16 years in Western Canada. And given the fact that this has gone from a Hockey Alberta opportunity between Edmonton and Red Deer to a Hockey Edmonton opportunity, we should probably suspect that the next opportunity to host in Western Canada may not come to Saskatchewan quickly. Traditionally, this event sees somewhere between $1 million of investment from the host city, $300,000 from the secondary city. In Vancouver, it was 1.2 million. In Victoria, it was 350,000 of investment. Generally, the province contributes somewhere around $3 million to make the finances of this event work. But the reason that that's important is because there's 31 games, 10 preseason games, and 320,000 tickets that occur in 1 month. To put that in perspective, that is an entire Saskatchewan Roughriders season in December and January, which additionally happen to be our very lowest points of hotel occupancy and visitor tourism use. The opportunity that we have around this event is to host 10 teams with 40 to 80 federation members. That also doesn't consider all the scouts, all the coaches, and all those involved that will be looking at these great athletes to find their next career moves. The average cost of a hotel was $150 for every night stay. The average cost of a per diem was $120 for every individual that joined this event. What we do know is that this event traditionally draws 90% of its attendees within a 150-kilometer radius of where the game is being played. So even though we do recognize it's a unique year, and Edmonton will be hosting in August, we do believe we have an opportunity to once again host this. The last time Saskatchewan hosted this event, it was the second best performing World Juniors in the history of the event. And I believe that we can do that again. If you consider an event that will bring $50 million in economic impact to our two urban centers at a time where our hoteliers, our restaurateurs, and our visitor economies and our airports desperately need this investment, this is truly a unique moment. If you consider an opportunity on a global stage to earn more than $50 million of earned media, this isn't just an investment, it's actually a statement. It's a statement that we in Regina are open for business and we in Saskatchewan are open for business. And it's not one that just stops at the prairies. It's one that goes to 10 nations that are enthusiastic about hockey. It's every TSN commercial, every TSN jingle, and every single day of your Christmas holidays talking about Saskatchewan. It's $220,000 in busing expense that most of us never think about. But with kids not going to school, and people not going to hockey games, and travel teams not going out of town, those are operators that need the investment as well. These are teams that will arrive somewhere between December the 5th and December the 12th so that they can acclimatize to our beautifully warm winters here in Regina, and so that they can get accustomed to playing hockey in Saskatchewan. So even though this is 31 games over a relatively short 21-day period, it's actually the best part of a month and a half of hockey. The other piece that's important is last year, without any games really being hosted in Edmonton, the province of Alberta gained $39 million in 50-50 win. Half of that goes back to charities, and half of that goes back to Hockey Alberta in that scenario. $39 million went back to the community because of that event. It is an opportunity for us, regardless of what happens with the challenges of COVID. Part of what we expressed to Hockey Canada was we are the only city outside of Edmonton that has hosted a hockey bubble. So should we find ourselves in a place, and hopefully we don't, that we're challenged with the onset of COVID or another wave, there is not a city better able to respond to hosting this than yours. The reality of it is there's 4 points we'd like to leave you with today. This is a month-long opportunity. This isn't a day, this isn't a weekend, this is a month. This is a month where the world that cares about hockey, which is big, will talk about Regina and Saskatoon. It's an opportunity for Saskatchewan to truly show the role that we play globally, not only in the energy sector, not only in the agriculture sector, but also in our ability to respond to hosting of events. If you think about an end of this year, coming out of COVID with all the challenges that our industry has faced, to go from Agribition to Grey Cup to World Juniors is something that I don't know that any city could do, but I absolutely believe that we can do well. Most importantly, it is an ability for us to partner with Saskatoon, which I don't generally like partnering with Saskatoon. But it is an opportunity for us to work together to do something great for Western Canada and for our province. And so today, we come forward asking for your support of up to $350,000. Our belief is that we should work through the city manager to make sure that Regina earns valuable hotel stays, economic opportunities for that investment. But because we're not Vancouver and because we're not Edmonton, we have to play our part together with Saskatoon to be able to secure this event. We are quite confident that our province will contribute equal to or better than what we've seen in the past. And our ask from you today is to do the same. And let's do something really special at the end of this year. Thanks for the opportunity.
Mr. May, did you want to follow that up with any comments?
Well, thank you, Mayor Masters. Through you, Mr. Reid is a tough act to follow, but what I can offer is that in 2020, City Council approved the events, conventions, and trade shows policy and its accompanying event evaluation framework. And as part of that policy, the ECT funding and framework was meant to attract high-profile events, major events that are hosted in Regina that provide a high profile and significant economic, social, and cultural benefits to the community. And this World Junior Championship is a perfect example of that. It will bring to the community a well-known international event for the citizens of Regina to enjoy. It will contribute to, as Tim said, the calendar of fall and winter events available for the city, enhancing its vibrancy. And it'll provide significant national media exposure for the city and will provide economic spinoff for the community. Given that, and the fact that we do have available to us in 2022 enough events, conventions, and trade show funding available to support a bid or a contribution of up to $350,000. It's administration's recommendation that we proceed.
Thank you, sir. Council, Mr. Reid and Mr. May are appearing both jointly as a part of the administration team, so you're not limited in questions of the delegation. They just form part of admin. And Councillor Hawkins, could I ask you to move the report?
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Reid, delegation. I note that the time is 8:50 on April 1, 2022. Mr. Reid, can you assure us that your request is genuine and that you've not brought this band of fools together simply to disrupt our breakfast?
Through the chair and through our councillor, thank you for the opportunity to respond to that. This request came to us, and I think it is an important question. Generally, you have 2 to 4 years to be able to respond to this event. This request came to us on Monday morning at 8 a.m. Our submission has to go in this Monday morning at 8 a.m. Hockey Canada will take 10 days to be able to come up with a recommended host city, and the International Hockey Federation will take 10 days to recommend. If we could have avoided interrupting anybody's breakfast, we would. If I could have avoided seeing Jeff in his pajamas every night for the last week, I would. But the reality of it is there's an opportunity before us that is quite urgent and time sensitive. And if we do get a yes, we're going to have to work incredibly hard as a city to make this happen, because we have to do what most cities have 4 years to do, and we only are going to have 5 months.
Thank you very much. There's nowhere I'd rather be than right here, right now, listening to this, but I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
You had an enormous success with Iceville last winter. Do you think that as part of this, Iceville, in some form, for some group of people, maybe everyone, will be available?
Through the chair, we definitely do. In fact, it will go into our submission, and we see a real opportunity. We've already talked with the school systems to talk about, can we partner with some students to learn about various countries, and maybe those students can get a chance to go and skate with Team Germany or Team Switzerland at Iceville.
Thank you very much. I'm very supportive. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins as the mover, Councillor Fundura as the seconder.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, gentlemen, it's a great news opportunity to be involved. One question is about employment. We always you talked about hotels, you talked about restaurants, you talked about taxi drivers, bus drivers. Employment is important at the time where, as you mentioned, slow times. COVID has been really teaching us to innovate. This opportunity doesn't, like you said, doesn't come. How big is this for employment? Just at Riel, around the districts. How important is this?
Absolutely. I can speak to the Real District side of things and I'll give you a perspective of when we went into COVID, we had 1,300 employees. Of those, about 250 were full-time, the rest were part-time. And so whoever sold you your Coke or your cold beer or your popcorn at your last experience, those are people that come to work for us basically to deliver those events. We have 550 employees today. And so if you think about the loss that we've seen in our industry because people have moved on to other sectors, it is quite significant because there just simply hasn't been work for people if you were in the business of selling hot dogs or tickets. As that starts to come back, we're seeing our staff grow quite quickly. What I will say is when we host an event such as Agribition or Grey Cup or this, our entire workforce at Real would be engaged. And so by the time we get back to this, hopefully we are back to 1,300 employees, and hopefully all of those 1,300 employees, which many of them actually live in the surrounding neighborhood, are having an opportunity to come to work. Also want to emphasize the fact that as we build out our district, and some of you will see some of the changes that have happened this year, we very much believe a hotel should be coming out of the ground and 3 new restaurants should be open by the time this comes into play. Those are jobs that will be filled there as well. What we do know is this generally creates about $90 million in GDP output for our city. I can't give you the specific numbers on citywide employment, but from a Real standpoint, all of our 1,300 employees will be engaged, and they'll be engaged for a period of 30 days, which they just have never had that before in those months.
Thank you for that, Mr. Reid. Mayor, just to that couple comments, that cannot be, like you said, you can't weigh this. When you say 50 million into the area, citizens of Regina, surrounding area, are benefiting. Comments are made that maybe we put this money out, who benefits? Well, you have a perfect example who benefits. It's everyone that's involved, not just directly, indirectly. So we must take this opportunity. Like you said, 14 years or so. If you snooze, you lose. So you were in pajamas late and early and shaved. They come in here to say, let's do this. It's important. We need to make those decisions. And those are tough decisions. But Mayor, we spend a lot of money on things that really don't get us anywhere, or we think it's going to get somewhere. This is a proven fact. 2010. It was exciting to be part of that. Right, so you have a proven winner. You have a horse that you don't even have to bet on. It's a success. Mr. Reid, you said yourself. We know we have the space, and Regina is on the map, and we are set for doing events, small, large, whatever. We need to be destination, and that's what we need to tell the folks and tell the people. We need to be destination, and Regina is somewhere to go. If you don't have anything, no one will come. So you build it, it will come. So I'm all in favor. Let's go. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Fundura. Councillor Stanachuk, you're up next.
Thank you, Mayor Masters. Through the Mayor, I have a couple of questions. For Mr. Reid, we've talked the report and you have talked about the economic impact this will have. What kind of revenue do you expect it would bring specifically to Real?
It's a great question, and through the chair, thank you for that. Traditionally, this event has a gross revenue scenario of somewhere between $28 and $30 million around it, so it's not insignificant. Obviously, with that, it comes with some significant expenses, and speaking to Councillor Fundura's comment, there's $15,000 a day in busing alone that will occur. There's $108,000 a day in hotels and food for players and coaches, not everybody that chooses to buy a ticket. In terms of the impact for Real, the last time we hosted this event, it generated about $1 million in earnings for Real, and so it was not insignificant. Part of the opportunity that we had through the chair was the investment that had been made in the Cooperator Center at that point. We were so well positioned pre-tournament to be a host practice facility. And so where Saskatoon has a larger arena and they traditionally host the medal rounds, our opportunity that was pre-tournament, and what we have been pushing for again, is that the teams practice here, they use the cooperators, they use the Brandt Center, and that we're more engaged where we don't need 15,000 seats. Short answer is it's about $1 million. And with what we've seen with the lack of touring events in the first quarter of this year, due to the challenges around Omicron, this is a pretty valuable opportunity for us from a budget scenario.
Yeah, thank you for that. Through the chair, are we aware of any other cities that are preparing bids or provinces?
We are, but they're not very good. I'm kidding. No, they're exceptionally good, to be honest. And our belief is that we would likely see, we believe, not confirm, that Ottawa and Quebec City will have a role to play in this. We believe that Winnipeg has some consideration in this, and we believe that Halifax does as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Through the chair, question to Mr. Reid. So Councillor Hawkins did ask about Icefill. Are there other activities that, and maybe this is a question as well for administration, are there other activities that Regina would organize if we were successful at this bid, other things that we would do in the city?
Through the chair, maybe I can provide a comment on that. There's a number of activities that are actually mandated through Hockey Canada. And so there is an opportunity for local schools to engage with the various teams. There is a minimum of 10 preseason games. We believe that at least one of those games should happen in each of our Canadian Hockey League cities within the province. We're very fortunate in Saskatchewan to have a number of Western Hockey League teams, to have a large number of them. So we do believe there should be an opportunity to have an exhibition game that perhaps finds its way to Moose Jaw, a game that finds its way to Swift Current, a game that finds its way to Prince Albert. And so we do want to recognize that this should be a celebration not only within Regina but across the province. There is additionally Hockey House, which is essentially Hockey Canada's celebration of hockey that would occur in Saskatoon as well as Regina. And so even though Team Canada may not be playing every single night, there is a celebration around Canada and hockey that occurs every single day. And so my experience having been involved with two of these is it really is an entire day of engagement. And so it starts with kids being able to have an opportunity to come down and meet players and watch practice and learn about how you train to be an international level athlete. And then it ends with not kids watching TV and closing down the bar late at night at the Hockey Canada House.
Okay, thank you. And I guess my last question through the chair is just because I'm not familiar with this process of preparing bids, and so I'm not sure if this is a question for Mr. Reid or the administration, but is this, we prepare the bid with the amount, and is that non-refundable? Or is that just that's what we pay if we're successful?
Mayor Masters, our contribution would only be paid if we were successful.
Okay, thank you for that. Well, Mayor Masters, I just want to say that I support this. I think it will really bring a lot of energy to the city. We're going to get bums in seats, lots of heads in beds, stops in shops, and lots of beers and cheers. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Councillor Stanczyk, the competition for the taglines for the city aren't quite out yet, but we'll note those.
Actually, if it would be okay, we'd love to bring her into the bid process.
All right, absolutely.
Chelsea thinks about that all the time, actually.
Councillor Shaw, please go ahead.
Am I on? I don't even know if I'm on.
Now you are.
Oh.
We can hear you now.
Okay, on. First of all, thank you very much for all the evenings and hours that you spent away from your family and in pajamas on the phone call. This is exciting. We got the memo yesterday, so I knew it wasn't an April Fool's. But on record, Tim and administration, I'm offering any of my services to you. I will clean floors. I will serve coffee. I will do anything to help out in this endeavor moving forward. Option number 2, maybe Mr. Reid, you'd like to answer this, administration. Option number 2 is to provide more money to the funding. would this be necessary, and should we be looking at this for you in order to make sure that this is successful moving forward through the chair?
Through the chair, thank you for that comment. And I would never say no to more money, which I think you probably would recognize that. That being said, I do believe what we're asking of you today is more than your fair contribution. If you look at the way that this tournament will advance, traditionally there's a Tier 1 host city and a Tier 2 host city. You know, Pool A, which is all the top tier teams, essentially, basically Hockey Canada, will play out of Saskatoon because of the size of their venue. And so I think the contribution that we're requesting of you is probably more than fair, given the fact that Saskatoon City Council is considering a $350,000 investment as well. And so I would almost suggest that our ask of you is probably different than Edmonton and Red Deer or Victoria and Vancouver. And we're asking you to carry perhaps more than your fair share because of the opportunity that we see at the front end. So I believe the request is fair. What I might suggest is if there's an ability to do more around the event that is Regina specific, then we have that conversation at another time. But as much as I hate to ever say no to a potential of additional funding, I think what we're asking of you is already quite aggressive and certainly more than fair for your commitment. I don't know if Mr. May has comments on that.
Through you, Mayor Masters, I would say that based on what we know and based on the 2010 event, I think the contribution that's recommended is well within line of what's appropriate, given the split between Saskatoon and Regina. In 2010, Regina contributed $250,000 to bringing this event to Saskatchewan. So given the passage of time and inflation, I think we're right on target.
So thank you for that answer. Just to add from there, and maybe administration can help me out in here, if they do need more money, would this money be available through the chair?
Through you, Mayor Masters, we currently have enough uncommitted events, conventions, and trade show budget funding, plus some money that's in that reserve, to cover the $350,000 up to $350,000 contribution that's recommended. If we were to go beyond that, we would have to find another source of funding to make up that difference.
Okay, and that could be possibly through sponsorship, is that correct? Or money out of from the city through the chair?
It would probably be a combination of Mr. Reid looking for sponsorship and us looking for some other sorts of funds, such as the general fund reserve.
Okay. I'm just trying to make sure that money's not going to be an issue if we need an extra $20,000 or something like that. Next question that kind of followed up from that, and that's something that's kind of a little thorn in my side, is obviously Saskatoon's going to be hosting the larger ones, the larger event. Is there any possible way that the ticket sales from Saskatoon for the finals could be allocated some, say 1,000 to people in Regina? Is that a possibility, or has anyone looked into something like that through the chair?
Through the chair, great question around ticketing. And so the way that these ticket promotions traditionally occur are they're packaged. And so if a Regina residents took no different than you would experience with the Riders or perhaps the Pats, where if you buy your season tickets or you buy a season pack, you get access to first choice. And so certainly any Regina residents that would be looking to purchase tickets to a Tier 1 level game, a medal game perhaps, if they had bought a ticket package, they would be able to be first in line, for lack of a better term. I also believe it's probably worth noting that one of the things we're working very hard to do from an accessibility standpoint is the average price of a ticket in 2010 when we hosted in Regina was $32. The average price of a ticket in Saskatoon was $54. The committee is working very hard to make sure that we keep those rates as close to that as possible. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be Tier 1 or Tier 2 tickets, but those were the averages in the last time that we hosted. And we do believe there's an opportunity to fill venues if we can keep pricing aggressive and affordable. And so on top of the ability that Regina residents would have to be first in line status as part of the ticket package, we also believe that these tickets will be quite reasonable. If you compare that to an average ticket price for a Heritage Classic, which is at that $154 range, we do believe this should be something that everybody can participate with.
Thank you, Tim, for that. Is there anything more that we can do to ensure that this happens through the chair?
I think there's probably a handful of items that you can do as councillors if you choose to support this. All of you have active, opportunities in social media and in the media. I think part of these bids are providing a clear statement to the owner of this property that our city is energized by this, our province is energized by this. And so as Ms. Galloway always does a fantastic job of assembling these bids, and with the support of your administration, we have the opportunity to be here. Once this bid is submitted on Monday, I think the role that we would ask for you and your administration is to be champions of it. And there's 10 days to send a very clear message to Hockey Canada and the hockey community around the globe that Saskatchewan's the right place to be. I have no doubt that our team in support in coordination with Saskatoon Tourism will submit a great bid. But once that goes in on Monday, I think the opportunity for yourselves as councillors and for our city is to make it known that we believe the best place to host this event in 2022 is Regina and Saskatoon.
So my follow-up question from that, Tim, and Chelsea, is she still there?
Councillor Shaw, you can't ask any questions of the delegate. They've been dismissed, so.
Oh, sorry. Okay, what I would just like to know and to make sure that our communications through the city is working on this already so that we have stuff that we can share, and also to Chelsea to share any communication that they have, just to ensure that this is being done and that this is being started on, especially from the city's communication staff. Has this begun already so that we can get a jump on this through the chair?
Mr. Nichol?
Thank you, Mayor. In response to your question, Councillor Shaw, yes, our communications branch was brought into this earlier this week when this all started to unfold. And so we will commit to ensuring that they work very closely with EDR, Tourism Regina, Mr. Reid and his staff. We will do everything we can to ensure that there is blanket coverage on this.
Awesome. Thank you very much. My final question, we talked about Icefield possibly still be running while this is going on. Mr. Reid, administration, does this offer any threat to us hosting Frost next year through the chair?
Through the chair, I can probably speak to that directly. We had a Frost committee meeting last night, and Councillor Bresciani, as our co-chair on that, perhaps has some comments, but the decision or the recommendation of the committee, pending the desire of the 4 hubs who were positive in returning, was to return for a 10-day fair at the exact same time in 2023 as we did. And so to your comment, I actually think if we can go from Agribition, if you can go from Grey Cup to Agribition to World Juniors to Frost, we may all deserve a nap by March of 2023.
Awesome. Thank you guys all very much. I am full support of this. I reached out to a bunch of my the residents in Ward 7 and absolutely excited to offer this and support about this. So thank you very much for all your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. Councillor Mole, please go ahead.
Well, first of all, I want to say I'm very impressed. I didn't realize this was Monday at 8 a.m. You guys heard about this. That is absolutely amazing. Great job to you, Mr. Reid and Mr. May. I'm sure you put in some good 12, 14, 16-hour days. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it to get to this point. This is very exciting for me personally. I love hockey. In 2010, I was actually working at the Cooperative Center's arenas. And correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed part of the purpose for that time frame was to have it ready for the juniors. So as I went walking along all those 6 arenas, I walked by the Team Canada arena that was earmarked for them. Each country had their own, and I'll never forget it because they were taking their pictures and they had the Canada flag draped over their shoulders. You could tell it was a very special moment for those young men, and even was for me walking by. So this is big, really important for me, and I know for the city of Regina, the city of Saskatoon, and all of Saskatchewan. So thank you very much, and go get this and make it successful for us. I'm in full support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Mole. Councillor Zakiniak.
Okay, first of all, I also want to thank everyone who worked really hard to make this opportunity possible. I also support this request. I do have just a few questions though. So just to clarify, with the draw from the ECT budget and reserve, both of those will then be at a $0 balance. Is that accurate?
Through you, Mayor Masters, yes, we would have accounted for all the funds available to us in 2022. However, the ECT budget, of course, is annual, and so in 2023, we will have $325,000 of budget. Now, I should note that we have made a commitment to support the 2022 Saskatchewan Winter Games. They were postponed due to COVID and will take place in 2023. So we still will have a $100,000 commitment in 2023 against 2023's funding.
Great, thank you. And are there, for this year, are there any additional investments planned for the events, conventions, and trade show, like in that area?
Through you, Mayor Masters, we're not currently aware of any other opportunities on the horizon at this time.
Mr. Reid, do you have anything to add to that?
No, just perhaps a bit of background. Traditionally, these events don't happen on this type of notice, which is why we normally have more runway. This is a unique scenario, but given the fact that we don't have something in the pipeline for this year, it actually, credit to council and the creation of the ECT fund. I actually think it was created to do exactly this, and it's available for us to respond. And so I think credit to your administration and yourselves for putting it in place. It's allowing us to do exactly what it was designed to do. And we don't see something else that's going to happen, certainly not of this magnitude between now and year end.
Okay, thanks. So when I read the report, it mentioned up to 350,000. But when I hear folks talking today, can we expect that it's likely that that entire amount will be needed or to be determined?
Through the chair, I think part of the negotiation that we're having with Saskatoon is we would like to have a fairly disproportionate amount of pre-tournament events happening out of Regina. And so our request is make the funding available for $350,000. Allow us to use that in conjunction with your city manager to negotiate with Hockey Canada and Saskatoon on what events end up here. And if we can justify the investment for value or economic output, then it would be up to $350,000. Short answer is, through the chair, if we can secure enough pre-tournament events to justify this investment, then it would be $350,000. If we couldn't, then I think we should suggest a lesser contribution in exchange for the fact that we as a city wouldn't see the same degree of value, perhaps, as Saskatoon.
Okay, I appreciate it. That's all the questions I had. Thank you once again to everyone who's made this possible.
Thanks very much, Councillor Zakiniak. Councillor Bresciani.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody involved to bring this to the table for us. As we've heard, I apologize, my voice, I do have a cold. So just, I want to just start off by saying this is more than just an opportunity. We, as I think I heard from Tim, that we are going to be on the world stage if we get this. And that's huge. And it's not just for a few days, it's for a month. I want to ask, one of the things that when we had the outdoor NHL game, Tim, that was huge, again, an opportunity. And, one of the things we heard there was Saskatchewan produces the most NHL players per capita in Canada. So hosting something like this, what do you think that the benefits will be for our youth? See these players come here to play.
Through the chair, it's a great comment, and it's a good reminder that we as Saskatchewan do produce incredibly talented hockey players at a percentage that probably is more significant than we should. No different than the Heritage Classic, the ability for young athletes to engage with high-level NHL teams isn't something that we have in our city. And so when you do have an opportunity for an aspiring athlete, I'll put my dad hat on of 2 hockey kids that will never make the NHL. They may not even make it out of the league that they're in right now. But the reality of it is our kids wake up every day desperately wanting to be Connor Bedard because that's who they get to see. And I will say, I think the ability for young athletes, male and female, within our city to just spend time with the very best junior athletes. So these aren't professionals, these are junior athletes or amateur athletes, I think is an ability for them to hope and dream to wear a Team Canada jersey someday. And like we've seen so often before, and like last time this occurred here, with Jordan Eberle representing our community, I think anytime you can host at this level, it is an ability for our young athletes to hope and dream that they get to wear a Team Canada jersey someday. That helps with participation and engagement and recruitment for our recreational sports.
Awesome. One of the questions I'm going to ask is one thing we learned through Frost by hosting events here, we brought in the whole city. So when we look at this, it is my hope, and I just want to ask, is there any stipulation around restaurants and any other venues wanting to get involved in promoting this in any way? Trying to almost, I see this again as a Grey Cup because it's bringing everybody together. Is there any stipulations, or do you think that will be handled to ensure that, every, center, north, south, east, west is going to be participating, either from restaurants to bars, that kind of thing as well, in promoting this?
Through the chair, a couple comments that I'd offer. I think we are really fortunate with our local Chamber of Commerce as well as our local tourism agency to be able to connect people with the ability to spend money. Anytime we have new money that comes to our city, our sole goal should be not only beyond making them feel very welcome, but it should be to take as much money out of their blue jeans as we possibly can so they leave it in Regina. I do think we've seen some really strong examples of being able to move people within our city. Part of what has not been included this is how do we manage tourism? To Mr. Onrait and his team, they're incredibly responsive and supportive as they were with Frost. So I think there will likely be a discussion that needs to be had about how do we move people from the various parts of our city. Unique to this is we do believe it will use every single hotel room that we have. And so we will have to be perhaps better at moving people from other components of the city versus the downtown. I think we'll rely heavily on our Chamber of Commerce. We'll likely rely heavily on you from a public transit perspective. And I think tourism, as they always do, will have to make it very clear to those joining us in Regina that here's your opportunities. All that being said, I do think the magnitude of this event will force us to engage the entire city, and it will likely force us to bump into our neighboring communities just to make this work. On the running parallel to this opportunity, and I think it's important, we continue to have opportunities for the Regina Pats to play, and we actually do have a number of very large hockey tournaments that happen in Regina. The Cooperator Center is a significant driver of economic opportunity for us in the winter. We just don't think about it, but it hosts 55 hockey tournaments. We actually have an inability to take any more hockey tournaments because every single weekend is full. But that weekend we have a U19 men's or boys tournament, we have a U15 girls tournament, and we have a U13 girls tournament as well. And so it really does give us an ability to maximize just that hockey experience in Regina. So if you're traveling from Western Canada to join us in one of those tournament weekends, you may also choose to take in a World Junior game, or frankly, as Councillor Moll said, you may walk past a World Junior player as you go and play in your tournament to the Cooperators. So I do think it will be citywide. I think it will enhance what we have. It will likely become dependent upon our Chamber and Tourism doing what they do to make sure that we're clear on where there's opportunity. And we likely will have to have a conversation with Mr. Onrait and his team about how we maximize public transit, which I know we have a strong opportunity in our city.
Awesome. We talk about promoting our city and telling our story here in Regina. I think this is another way that, we'll have a lot of video caption just from similar to Frost. I had people from all over, even into the US, have responded to the video that came back, many of the videos on Frost, and I hope that that's the same thing as well with this, if this goes forward. Again, to another piece, to our story of how we host events, because I think we are becoming Very, very well known, not just in Canada, but just that Regina, when we host, and the province of Saskatchewan, when we host events, we go bold. We're not afraid. We really go over the top. And I think that's something that we've seen through the past events that we've hosted. Last question, well, just in regards to a 50-50. Now, I know Alberta did a 50-50. Is this something that we will be doing? And I know that they supported, I think, a hockey program. So is this something that we're able to do, or are we doing or did we put that in the proposal, or how would that work?
Through the chair, it's a great question. And coming out of Alberta, I think what's really changed for Hockey Canada is what a significant priority that 50-50 has become. And so that 50-50 contributes, it's shared, and as you would be aware through the chair, it has to stay in our province. And so it filters back to a number of hockey organizations. So in Alberta, it went back to the Olympic program because they're based out of Calgary. It went back to Hockey Alberta. It went back to Sledge Hockey Alberta. And so it did filter back, and it went back to Ringette Alberta. In our bid, we haven't designated who those champions or recipients would be, but I can say the expectation from Hockey Canada is that we would have a 50-50. It would be a digital 50-50. So for those of you that may have watched the World Juniors, you would have seen the QR code that would flash up all the time in the bottom of the screen. If you were an Albertan, you could scan that and purchase tickets on your phone from your couch. We hope to do the same thing. We believe the technology exists. It is geo-fenced so that only those that are in Saskatchewan would be able to buy. And as such, the 50-50 earnings would go to somebody from Saskatchewan that would win their share, and the rest would go back to Saskatchewan not-for-profit or social profit agencies. But at $38 million, that is not an insignificant sum if that's going back to a handful of social profits in our communities.
Thank you. Volunteers. What is the volunteers that we're going to be needing, and how will that be working out with this event if it goes through?
I actually think through the chair we're in a very unique opportunity around volunteerism. Many of our volunteers weren't active during COVID-19 because we didn't have a lot of events, and frankly, many of them that may have been more senior just didn't feel comfortable participating the way they once had. We've always seen such exceptional volunteerism around the Grey Cup. I think we have an ability to energize that volunteer base. I will say, when I was part of this event in Halifax a gazillion years ago, we launched the volunteer program within that community based on this event. People love to come out for Team Canada events, and I think we went from 0 people in our volunteer base as Haligonians to 2,800 active volunteers on our list. We do have a program. It's actually administered through REAL right now, called our Core 84 program. Bernadette McIntyre runs that on our behalf, and probably the most significant volunteer that humanity's ever produced. We have 168 volunteers in that database. The Saskatchewan Rough Riders have an incredibly strong volunteer database. I think coming out of Grey Cup, this is probably an opportunity for us as a city to go from a volunteer activation that had been turned off to one that is highly engaged and highly activated. So I think the opportunity we have is to go from Grey Cup to roll those volunteers into this and to roll those into Frost. Our hope would be that coming out of this opportunity, we have 1,000 volunteers that are in a database and available for the next time something comes to Regina where we need some support. So I actually think the volunteer database growth is one of the probably ancillary benefits of hosting this, particularly this year.
Great. Just for administration, I guess, if the fund now is going to be at 0, I just want to confirm that for Frost, as we did have a meeting last night, I just want to ensure that we want to move forward with that. We did a survey. There was over 1,200 respondents, and people absolutely loved that event. So if there's a 0 balance, what does the funding look like that for Frost if it came out of the ECT prior to the chair?
Through you, Mayor Masters, as I mentioned, the 2023 budget will be $325,000. We have a commitment for the 2022 Saskatchewan Winter Games of $100,000, And in accordance with the delegated authority to the city manager, we recently approved support to bring the Pinty's World Championship, the Pinty's Championship Cup to Regina in 2023, and that was a contribution of $45,000. So we would have an uncommitted balance of ECT funding in 2023 of $180,000 that could be applied to other opportunities such as Frost.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a comment, if I can, Mayor. I just want to say thank you to all involved. This is Saskatchewan lives and breathes hockey, and this is going to be huge for our province, and of course, great to showcase our city. So thank you for everyone for the quick work that you've had to do, and I absolutely hope we will win this to move this forward. And as everyone has said, if there's anything else we need to do, let's make it happen. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bresciani. I have noted that Councillor Mancinelli is just giving the thumbs up that he's good. All right. I just want to finish off. Oh, hang on, Mr. Nicol.
Thank you, Mayor Masters. Don't want to usurp any comments that you have to make, but we were just informed that the City of Saskatoon has approved the concurrent request that was before them this morning.
Noted. You know, what you've heard this morning, Mr. May and administration and Mr. Reid and to Tourism Regina, Ms. Galloway, is a lot of gratitude in terms of what you're able to pull off. And I exactly think this is why we should host it, is because, to Councillor Bresciani's point, we go bold, go over the top, and we do it on short notice too. But I would suggest to you that this is what some of these organizations live for. So congratulations on having some fun with the potential for this. You know, I was struck by what Councillor Moll had to say in terms of that moment that he remembers. And that is one of the things about our city. It's one of the gifts of our city and our residents that we have so many shared moments that we can go back to at points in time. And so many of them are focused around events, cultural events, sporting events, art events, where we can look around and you can talk to anybody in the country. Heck, wear your Rider jersey down into Mexico and you'll make friends in a heartbeat. It's that kind of connection because of moments that we create here in this city, which makes us, in my opinion, ideally suited. You know, it's interesting, we were at a Grey Cup event a little while ago in terms of launching Grey Cup 2022. And there's a line in it in terms of this is the heartland of football. It is the heartland of hockey too. If football unites the country, coast to coast, I would suggest that hockey connects Regina and the province of Saskatchewan to the rest of the world. It is absolutely what we're good at. I think that the message cannot be lost on council and administration in terms of being a champion for when this goes live. Be bold, go over the top. In terms of volunteers, I always say we have the best in the world. I would just suggest to you, and I'm not, you may already be doing this, and I apologize if this is redundant, but in terms of your volunteer database, it's been noted to me that First Nations University of Canada, University of Regina, Sask Polytechnic, SIIT, and our community associations are little gold mines for volunteers of individuals, lots of whom, especially through the universities, may not have a connection into the community and an opportunity to network and to meet people. Put the call out, because I think your database can start to include those folks and be a source for years to come in terms of either international students coming to our city, folks from outside the city of Regina coming to attend one of our education facilities. Heck, send it out to the RCMP college, why not? But really to be inclusive and to wrap our arms around and show them what creating moments feels like here in the city of Regina. And my challenge to you is this. You suggested that back in 2010, we were the second best ever World Juniors hosted. I'd like to be first. I don't know about you. More important than that, I want every team that attends the World Juniors to want to be part of Pool B more than they've ever wanted anything in their life. Let's show them how a host city welcomes, includes, celebrates, and I hope the message to Hockey Canada this morning is definitely that we're up for it, and be most happy to host. Thanks very much. I have a motion put on the floor by Councillor Hawkins. I have a seconder from Councillor Vendura. Councillor Hawkins, did you want to close off debate?
Nothing further except to say good luck.
Thank you. City Clerk, please call the vote.
Yep.
Through you, Mayor Masters, the motion carries 8-1 with the following members voting in favor: Councillors Hawkins, Bresciani, Shaw, Findura, Stadnichuk, Mole, Zakidniak, and Mayor Masters. And the following member voting against is Councillor Mancinelli. And the following members are waived from the meeting today: Councillor Stevens and Councillor LeBlanc.
I have turned Councillor Mancinelli's microphone on.
Well, this kind of all came up on April 1st. I think this is a great opportunity. I wouldn't really vote against it, so this is a really lame attempt at an April Fool's joke. I can see I kind of got some attention, so I think it might have worked. I'm totally for it. Sorry for the bad humor.
Decide that no, and then I am sure.
Seconded by Councillor Nolan. Anyone against? Seeing none, so adjourned.
I promised you that.